Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Coffee with John. Looking forward to a 5-part series. We're in part 2. Scott, good morning. Thanks for calling in from California. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to you about your new book, The Opioid Epidemic. And we talked about this yesterday. You know, we talk a lot about business, but this is serious business. And everybody in business, or most people in business, have family and friends that they need to kind of raise their awareness when it comes to helping other people. That's what you do. Yourcrisiscoach.com is your website. You're a family navigator. You are in the trenches. You are also, you've been there, you're in recovery. And so you really have the eyes and the ears and the instincts of what to look out for. And I know that's what you dive into your book. Let's talk about, yesterday we talked about kind of raising awareness. Let's talk about maybe today that first 1 to 2 minutes of a conversation you have someone where you know there may be something going on, whether it's a coworker, a friend, a family member, a child, etc. How do you engage in that initial, it's like a business call. The first 30 to 60 seconds of a cold call are really hard. And I would think the first 30 to 60 seconds of this are also very hard. Well, how does someone approach that?
And it's interesting as you're talking, I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's almost like somebody who's sitting on the edge of a roof in a 40-knot wind, trying not to fall over. The family's in crisis and they're not thinking straight, and they're upset and they're concerned and they're worried and they don't know what to do. I got some recent advice from my coach about asking the family just to breathe for a second or two, in and out, just to kind of settle down. Because generally when people are calling me, they're right at that ledge. There is a strong wind. It's hard for them to hear, but it's important, I think, for families to understand that there is hope, there is help. So when you make the call, most importantly is make the call. Let's start the conversation. And then the idea is to listen to them for a couple of minutes to hear what's going on, and then try to give them the pluses and minuses of what next steps look like.
But what does that call sound like when you say, hey, I think you have a problem?
They tell me they have a problem. What it sounds like, again, it's panic.
No. What I'm saying is like for someone to go to the person who's using, what does that conversation sound like?
Well, it's a tough one because it's almost like, the analogy I like is when it's like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. Mm-hmm. So the most important thing, I think, when you're approaching your child is to sit down with them and to let them talk first. Assuming they will. And then if they won't, you help steer the conversation in a way where you say, no one cares about you more than I do, and personalize it rather than pointing the finger and pushing blame or pointing out an imperfection or something that happened that was wrong, because they know it. They're not stupid. And they know it because they're in pain and they're full of shame, and there's that stigma. So when you start the conversation, it's important to tell them how you feel, how you're concerned, and that you want to be there as a resource to them. And those are my words. You can pretty much use your own voice, but be a listener.
But what I love what you're talking about is the flow of things, right? I think it is, even in my question, because I'm naive and I don't know. I said, well, what do you say to someone? And it's not what you say. It's just setting the foundation of, hey, no one cares about you more than me, and creating that safe environment. And I think that's why you are so important in the mix, because even the nuances of, I would imagine, sitting down and saying, hey, what's going on, is a lot different energy than, hey, we care about you. You create the foundation of a safe environment like you're talking about. And then the conversation goes up from there. That's great. I love this 5-part series. I would love to maybe talk tomorrow about how you handle conversations like this in the workplace, right? This is a very HR potential issue. And if someone is there, how do you go about it if you have an HR department and if you don't have an HR department? I think that would be a good step, because I work with a lot of companies all over the country that do deal with this type of stuff and for trying to figure out the discussions and the conversations. Scott, where can people connect with you?
You can call me directly at area code 619-993-2738, 619-993-2738, or just Google me, Scott H. Silverman, and find a way to reach out, ask for help. 3 of the hardest words in the English language. I need help. But once you make that, you raise that hand and you ask for help, the journey obviously begins in a much easier way. And I look forward to tomorrow's conversation, because when you think about it, we spend more waking hours at work, well, when we get back to the new normal, than we do at home with our families in many cases.
Yeah. And I just want to, I appreciate your words, and I appreciate you giving out your cell, and I appreciate you talking to the point of it's so hard to ask for help. Business, personal, it's just in general, I think as humans, we're kind of faultly, I don't even know if that's a word, wired that way. And so, so ask for help, pick up the phone, and you make it, you make the path much easier. Appreciate you. Looking forward to this continued conversation tomorrow. Your book, The Opioid Epidemic, What You Don't Know Will Destroy Your Family and Your Life. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate your time. Think community. If Scott can help you, please reach out. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thanks, John. Talk to you soon.